What if the true path to inner peace wasn't explaining yourself louder, but disappearing quietly, reclaiming your soul one silent step at a time? What if the people you're desperately trying to explain yourself to are the ones most committed to misunderstanding you? Imagine realizing that the greatest power you hold is not in fighting to stay, but in walking away without needing anyone's permission. Welcome to a life-changing truth. You don't owe your energy, your explanations, or your presence to those who have proven they don't value it. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply vanish. It's time to ghost everyone. Choose peace over drama. By Billy Graham, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is disappear. Not in a dramatic way, not as some grand statement, but as a quiet, deliberate choice to reclaim your space. We spend so much time justifying our presence in places that no longer serve us, explaining ourselves to people who don't truly listen, holding on to conversations that drain us more than they fulfill us. But what if we just stopped? What if, instead of explaining, instead of apologizing, instead of making one last attempt to be understood, we simply walked away? There's a reason silence is comfortable for people. It forces them to sit with themselves. It leaves room for reflection, for realization, for truth to settle in. And truth is unsettling, especially for those who have benefited from your presence without truly valuing it. The moment you remove yourself, you shift the balance. You take back control. Because ghosting isn't just about cutting ties. It's about prioritizing yourself in a world that constantly demands you to be available. Think about all the times you've stayed in conversations long past their expiration. Date the friend who only calls when they need something. The job that takes and takes, but never appreciates the family member who guilt trips you into obligations that feel more like burdens. The group chats that leave you feeling more alone than connected. We tell ourselves we owe people explanations, that we have to bow out gracefully, that we have to consider their feelings first, but let's be honest, how many times have they considered yours? Sometimes you don't owe anyone a response, you don't owe them closure, and you don't have to craft the perfect exit speech or write a carefully worded message to soften the blow. Because the truth is, if someone genuinely cared about you, they would have noticed long before you decided to disappear. They would have valued you enough to not make you feel like leaving was your only option. Walking away is not weakness, it's strength. It's the ability to say, I choose me, curtsy. And that choice is something people rarely expect, because the world teaches us to be accessible, to always respond, to be present, even when it drains us. But you are not a resource for others to consume. At their convenience, you are not a lifeline for those who only reach for you when they're drowning. You are not an emotional punching bag for people who refuse to do the work on themselves. Let's get real. The people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries even if they don't. Understand them. They won't need explanations. They won't demand that you justify your decision to step away. But the ones who get angry, the ones who guilt trip you, who call you selfish, who try to make you feel bad for choosing yourself, those are exactly the people you needed to leave behind, because their reaction says everything. You don't have to fight for a seat at a table that was never meant for you. You don't have to beg to be heard in rooms where your voice was never valued. The moment you decide to ghost is the moment you stop waiting for people to appreciate you and start appreciating yourself. And when you do, When you step away from the noise, from the unnecessary obligations, from the endless cycle of XP, that's when you find peace. That's when you hear your own voice again, without the interference of everyone else's opinions. That's when you realize that ghosting isn't about running away. It's about walking towards something better too. Many of us are out here spending our energy like we have an unlimited supply. We're giving away time to people who don't value it, pouring into relationships that never pour back, engaging in arguments that leave us drained, answering calls we don't want to take, showing up in spaces that deplete us. And then we wonder why we feel so exhausted, so disconnected, so empty. It's because we're going broke, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, by wasting energy on things that don't serve us. You ever notice how some people leave you feeling lighter, inspired, refreshed, and then there are others. Just the sight of their name popping up on your phone makes your shoulders tense. You already know that conversation is going to take something from you. Maybe it's their negativity. Maybe it's their constant drama. Maybe it's the way they expect you to always be available, to always listen to, always fix whatever problem they've created for themselves. This time, whatever it is, you walk away feeling drained. That's because they're withdrawing from your energy account without ever depositing anything back. And it's not just people, it's habits, it's environments. It's the way we move through life without being intentional about where our energy is going. Social media, a major energy leak, scrolling through an endless feed of other people's lives, their opinions, their problems, none of it actually benefiting you, but somehow you can't stop workplace drama. Another leak sitting in conversations about things that don't concern you, gossiping, complaining, staying in a job that doesn't fulfill you but drains you. Anyway, even your own thoughts can be a problem. Overthinking, replaying past conversations, obsessing over things you can't control. It's all spending energy that you could be using for something better. If energy is currency, then ghosting is financial freedom. It's saying, I'm done making bad investments. It's realizing that you don't have to answer every call. You don't have to respond to every message. You don't have to engage in every argument. It's knowing that silence is sometimes the most valuable thing you have. People will call you selfish. For protecting your energy, let them. They'll say you act indifferent, that you're distant, that you've changed good. That means it's working. That means you're no longer available for the things that used to drain you. Because here's the truth. When you start valuing your energy, the people who were only benefiting from your lack of boundaries will be the first to get mad, but their reaction isn't your responsibility. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone should be able to reach you. Whenever they feel like it, you have to start treating your energy like the precious resource it is. Because if you don't, people will spend it for you. They will use you up and move on to the next person who's willing to overextend themselves. And by the time you realize what's happened, you'll be exhausted, resentful, and wondering where all your time went. So start protecting your energy, like your life depends on it. Because in a way, it does start being intentional about where you invest your time, who you give your attention to, what conversations you entertain. And if that means ghosting some people, some habits, some environments, so be it. People expect words. They expect explanations, closure, some kind of validation that they were important, enough to warrant a final conversation. But the truth is, some things don't need to be spoken. Some exits don't need announcements. Some endings don't require a discussion. The moment you realize that you set yourself free, we've been conditioned to believe that we owe people an explanation for choosing ourselves, that we have to wrap things up neatly, provide a conclusion, make sure everyone understands why we're leaving. But let's be honest, when has explaining yourself ever really changed anything? When has a long conversation with someone who doesn't value you ever resulted in them suddenly treating you better? It doesn't work that way. People hear what they want to hear. They understand based on their own perspective, their own ego, their own sense of entitlement. And more often than not, they don't actually want to understand. You leaving disrupts their comfort, and that's what they really care about. That's why silence is so powerful. It forces people to sit with the consequences of their actions. It forces them to wonder, to reflect, to question. And whether they ever admit it or not, they know exactly why you disappeared. They know the disrespect, the neglect, the selfishness, the way they took more than they gave. They just never expected you to do anything about it. Ghosting isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about refusing to engage in battles that have already been lost. It's about recognizing when a conversation isn't going to change the outcome. You don't owe people closure when they never valued the connection in the first place. You don't owe them a heartfelt explanation when they never cared enough to ask how you were feeling when you were still there. And let's talk about that word, closure. People act like it's this sacred thing, like it's a requirement for moving on. But closure is a myth. You don't need someone else's permission to heal you. Don't need them to acknowledge your pain for you to let it go. Because here's the thing, if someone didn't respect you while they had access to you, they're not suddenly going to respect you just because you're leaving and waiting for that moment. Waiting for them to finally understand, to finally care, to finally take responsibility. That's how you stay stuck. Walking away without a word is not cold. It's not cruel. It's clarity. It's recognizing that your energy is too valuable to be wasted on explanations that won't be heard. It's understanding that silence says more than words ever could. Because when you stop talking, when you stop arguing, when you stop explaining, there's nothing left for them to do but feel the absence. And that's the real consequence. People can ignore your words. They can twist them, debate them, dismiss them, but they can't ignore your absence. They can't argue with silence. They can't twist what was never said. And that is why ghosting is not weakness. It's power. So if you're waiting for the right words, for the right moment, for the perfect way to explain why you're done, stop. You don't have to say anything. Just leave. Let your silence be the answer. Let them figure it out. Have you ever noticed how loud the world has become? The endless notifications, the constant buzzing of messages, the never-ending stream of updates, opinions, arguments. It's exhausting. It's a never-ending demand for your attention, your energy, your time. And the worst part, most of it isn't even real. We live in a world where people document their lives more than they actually live them, where validation comes in the form of likes, where connection has been reduced to quick replies and reaction emojis. And yet, despite being more connected than ever, people are lonelier, more anxious, more overwhelmed than they've ever been. Why? Because we weren't built for this. We weren't meant to be accessible 24/7, to carry the weight of every conversation, every debate, every crisis, unfolding across the world all at once. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in complete silence? No music, no background noise, no scrolling, no checking, no responding, just silence, just you and your own thoughts. It's rare, isn't it? Because somewhere along the way, We became afraid of being alone. We became afraid of stillness. We started filling every gap, every quiet moment with something, because being alone with our thoughts felt uncomfortable. But that discomfort, that's where clarity lives. That's where peace begins. The moment you step away from the noise, you start hearing yourself again. You start realizing how much of your day was spent reacting instead of living. You start noticing how much of your time was given away to things that didn't matter. You start to feel lighter, freer, more in control of your own mind. And that's why ghosting the digital world isn't just an escape. It's a necessity. Try it. Try disappearing for a while. No announcement, no dramatic farewell post. Just step back. See who actually reaches out. Who actually notices your absence? See how much of your anxiety fades when you're no longer constantly plugged into the chaos. Watch how your mind slows down, how your focus sharpens, how your stress begins to dissolve. Because most of what drains us isn't even happening in real life. It's happening on screens, in messages, in notifications that demand instant responses, but give nothing in return. People fear missing out, but the truth is, you're not missing anything. The world keeps moving, whether you check in or not. The arguments keep happening. The trends keep shifting. The posts keep coming. And when you finally step back, you realize how little of it actually matters, how much of it was just noise, and how much better life feels when you're no longer drowning in it. So if you've been feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, scattered, disappear for a while. Ghost, the notifications, the group, chats, the endless scrolling, let the world wonder where you went, and in that silence, in that space, find yourself again. Because the real world, the one that actually matters, it's not on a screen. It's out here waiting for you. We spend so much of our lives being weighed down by obligations that don't belong to us, expectations we never agreed to, relationships we feel forced to maintain, responsibilities that drain us more than they fulfill us. We tell ourselves that this is just how life works, that showing up even when it feels like a burden is the price we pay to be seen as good, as loyal, as responsible. But what if that's a lie? What if the greatest freedom we could ever experience comes from letting go of the things we were never meant to carry? People will tell you that you can't just walk away, that you can't just disappear, that you can't just break free from traditions, from family expectations, from friendships that have been around for years. They'll say, you owe people your presence, your explanations, your time. But let's be honest, how many of those people would stay if the roles were reversed? How many of them are truly there for you? Not just when it's convenient, not just when they need something, but simply because they value you as you are. We hold on to people out of obligation, even when they've become strangers to us, even when we've outgrown them, even when every conversation feels forced. Every interaction feels like a performance. We keep picking up the phone, keep replying to the messages, keep showing up to the events. Not because we want to, but because we feel like we have to. And we do the same thing with commitments that no longer serve us, with jobs that drain us, with expectations that don't align with who we really are. We convince ourselves that this is the right thing to do, that this is what being a good friend, a good family member, a good person looks like. But tell me this, what good is it if you're miserable? What good is it if you feel trapped, if the relationships, the commitments, the expectations aren't adding to your life, but slowly taking pieces of you away? Who exactly benefits from you staying in a space that drains you? Because it's not you, people, who truly care about. You will understand if you need to step away, They won't guilt-trip you. They won't make you feel like you abandoning them just because you're choosing yourself. For once, the ones who get angry, the ones who make you feel like a villain for setting boundaries, for creating space, for needing distance, those are the ones who were never really for you in the first place. They were for what you provided, for what you gave, for the role you played in their life. And the moment you stop playing that role, they show you exactly who they are. Some of you are carrying generational expectations that should have ended long before they reached you. Some of you are trapped in friendships that are held together by nothing but history. Some of you are giving your time and energy to people who would never do the same for you. And you feel it, you know it, but you keep holding on. Because letting go feels selfish. Because disappearing feels wrong. Because you've been told your whole life that loyalty means staying even when it hurts. But let's be clear, loyalty should never cost you your peace. It should never feel like a prison sentence. It should never require you to shrink yourself just to make others comfortable if staying in certain relationships, certain environments, certain commitments is draining the life out of you. Then you have every right to leave without warning, without apology, without permission, because here's the truth. There will always be people who benefit from your lack of boundaries. There will always be those who expect you to keep giving, even when you have nothing left. And the moment you stop, the moment you decide you're done carrying what isn't yours to carry, they will make you feel like you're the problem. But you're not. You're just finally waking up to the fact that your life belongs to you, not to them. It's time to let go. Let go of the guilt, the expectations, the relationships that only exist because you're too afraid to leave. Let go of the idea that you have to explain yourself, that you have to justify why you need space, why you need freedom. Let go of the pressure to be everything for everyone, while slowly losing yourself in the process. You don't owe anyone your exhaustion. You don't owe anyone your constant availability. You don't owe anyone the version of yourself that you've outgrown. So walk away, not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself. And that is enough. At some point, you have to stop waiting for permission. To live the life you want, you have to stop explaining yourself, stop justifying your choices, stop seeking validation from people who will never understand your journey. Because the truth is, no matter what you do, someone will have something to say about it. No matter how carefully you try to navigate your decisions, no matter how much you try to be fair, to be kind, to be thoughtful, there will always be someone who doesn't approve. Always someone who feels entitled to an explanation. Always someone who thinks you owe them an answer, but you don't. You never did. The people who truly support you, who truly care about you, don't need an explanation. They don't require proof that you're making the right decision because they trust you to make the best choice for yourself. And the ones who demand justification, the ones who question your every move, who make you feel guilty for choosing yourself, who act like your happiness should come second to their comfort, those are the ones you have to walk away from. There's a kind of peace that comes with realizing you don't have to respond, that you don't have to argue, that you don't have to convince anyone of anything. The moment you embrace that you step into a level of freedom that most people will never experience. And that's what ghosting is really about. It's not about cutting people off just for the sake of it. It's not about being heartless or avoiding confrontation. It's about understanding that some conversations are not worth having that. Some battles are already lost before they begin. that some explanations are nothing more than a waste of breath. Think about all the energy you've spent trying to get people to understand, you trying to explain why you've changed. Why? You need space. Why you can't keep playing the same role they've assigned to you, and ask yourself, has it ever really worked? Have the people who didn't respect you before suddenly started respecting you after you explained yourself? Have the people who took you for granted suddenly change their ways because you pointed it out? Or did they just keep doing the same thing, expecting you to keep coming back, keep engaging, keep playing the game? That's why silence is so powerful. It's why ghosting is so necessary. Because when you stop explaining, when you stop arguing, when you stop justifying, you take away their control. You take away their ability to manipulate the situation, to twist your words, to guilt trip you into staying where you don't belong. When you walk away without a word, you leave them with nothing but their own reflection. And that is the one thing they can't escape. People will call you selfish for this. They'll say you're cold, that you don't care, that you're abandoning them. But let's be honest, when has their definition of selfish ever benefited you? When has prioritizing yourself ever been met with applause from the people who were only interested in taking from you? Of course, they'll be upset. Of course, they'll act like you've wronged them, but that's not your problem to solve their feelings, their disappointments, their frustrations. They belong to them, not to you. Some people only understand your value when you're no longer excessive. Some people only appreciate what you brought to their life when they realize you're not coming back. And some people will never change. No matter how much you give, no matter how much you explain, no matter how much you try. And that is why you have to disappear. Because life is too short to keep explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It's too short to keep proving your worth to those who never saw it in the first place. It's too short to keep justifying your choices to those who benefit from your self-doubt. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace. You don't owe anyone a justification for prioritizing your own well-being. You don't owe anyone the version of yourself that makes them comfortable but leaves you feeling choosing. Silence is not abandonment. It's self-preservation. It's understanding that your peace, your clarity, and your future are too valuable to be sacrificed on the altar of other people's expectations. You owe no one the labor of understanding you, especially when your silence delivers the message that words never could. The moment you stop fighting to be seen is the moment you realize you were never invisible. You were just shining your light in the wrong direction. Your healing, your growth, and your purpose are calling. Let go of the noise, the guilt, the false obligations, and step boldly into the freedom of living for yourself, not for their validation.